Hi, everyone. This is Stacey Adair with Radiant You Magazine, and it is a privilege for me to introduce to you today Jonathan Bailor, health and nutrition researcher and author of The Smarter Science of Slim. Now, Jonathan, this book has really blown me away. And when I first was introduced to this book, and it says Smarter Science of Slim, and then underneath I read scientific proof, fat loss facts. You really had me intrigued. I had to know what these facts were. Well, you get that all the time now. Like, here's the new best way to lose weight, and here's a new way to trick your body to melt that fat. So I said, well, let me see. It does say science in here. So when I started reading, I was immediately floored. First of all, the reviews on there, I mean, to say they were raving reviews is probably an understatement. The reviews itself just blew me away.
Well, no, it was very, very, obviously, I'm very flattered by the reception that the book has gotten. It's been wonderful.
Yes, and the reviews were by, a lot of the people in the medical community. So that really had me intrigued before I even started with chapter 1. And once I started reading, I just couldn't believe how much science you had in there. And by the way, you still made it very interesting. It wasn't one of those boring, like, oh, here's a study and this is what the mouse did. But, it was so
that was definitely something we had to work through for sure. Well, you really want to put science in the title? I don't know.
Well, reading it, I found myself getting a little upset because I was thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much science is out there, how much research has been done on how we gain and lose weight, going back years, covering mice and people and animals, and we're just now really hearing about it. So I kind of want to hear from you, what was your driving force that got you started on this path of doing all these years of research to bring this information to light?
Well, yeah, it was. It started, really a decade ago, and I'm kind of a geeky guy, and I really have no other explanation other than, I like science. I'm one of those guys, and I also have always been a fan of health and fitness. So when you put those two things together, I ended up just kind of on a whim. Starting to, dabble in the, academic research journal articles rather than reading, a magazine off the shelf. And while that is definitely not particularly entertaining reading, and that's why we haven't heard about it, is because it's very difficult to parse and it's dense. But once I started to, figure it out and be able to understand all this academic research, it really addicted me, because what I was seeing is that what the researchers have proven and, what we've all been told are often, more often than not, in sharp contrast. The whole eat less and exercise more. Just eat less of the foods you're already eating and do more of the type of exercise you're already doing is, in fact, the exact opposite of what research shows. Research shows that we need to eat more of the right quality of food and eat and do less, but of the right quality of exercise. And for a while I just didn't believe that. So that's why I was like, I just got to do some more research. But then, after a few years, the research transformed away from, the research has to be wrong, and I'm going to find research which confirms what I already believe, and started to be more like, really pursuing this alternate approach and the scientifically proven approach to fat loss, and that's where the Smarter Science of Slim came from.
And that's one of the things that really just, I was mind-boggled for a while that there was all this proof out there saying that exactly what we're doing is wrong. It's basically like you're doing this wrong, and all the science is out there to tell us this. Yet everywhere we look, in the mainstream world at least, not in the medical world, but magazine articles, even health medical articles, government information, all of the stuff that's out there tells us to do these things. I think I was just on some medical website not too long ago reading an article about how if you just eat a little bit less every day, you'll start losing weight. And, I wish. My mom always tells me, God, I barely eat. I don't understand why, I haven't lost any weight. But
no, that's and then we all know And we all know plenty of people, right, who eat all kinds of food and never exercise and don't gain weight.
Oh yeah.
You know, we all know those people. So there's got to be something else going on. And
yeah,
that's
we were one of those people, but we can be from
yes,
what you
yes.
put in your book, that we can actually be more like those people who are naturally thin no matter what they do.
That's exactly right. And that really is the exciting part of the research, is that, you know, fundamentally, you know, we've been sort of programmed, like you said, to think about quantity and like the quantity of calories we're eating and the quantity of exercise we're doing. But what the science actually shows is that it's the quality of the food we eat and it's the quality of the exercise we do that really impacts the hormones, which really are the driving force in our body. And by manipulating our hormones, we can fundamentally transform the way our body fuels itself and make our body run more efficiently off of fat and just naturally burn fat and make our body be more like these people who eat whatever they want, never exercise, and stay slim.
And I love how you talk about how our bodies actually know how to do these things. They know how to burn the fat, and they know how to use the calories in the right ways. But the way that we've been eating or been trained to eat even heavy on things like starches has altered what our body should be doing naturally. So
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Well,
yeah, our body
it's
already
funny.
knows. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it makes sense. You know, a lot of this stuff. You know, the thing that always really intrigued me about the research is, well, you know, we talked already about what the research shows and what we've been taught are, you know, basically opposites. But it's not like the research is crazy. Like when you actually hear the research and you sort of hear the end-to-end explanation, you're like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know, the research doesn't say, you know, just things that sound absurd. You know, it says things like, if you eat natural foods, and natural is defined truly as foods that originate, like you could find them directly in the earth, or you could hunt or gather them, basically. If you eat natural foods, your body will work as it naturally should, which is to keep you healthy and slim. I mean, our bodies aren't designed to be, overweight and sick. We would have died out as a species a long time ago if that was true. We've just strayed away from our natural diet, and since we've strayed from our natural diet, we've strayed from our natural state of health, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. It makes so much sense. When you're reading it, it's kind of like, how did we not know this? It just makes so much sense from the first time that you start reading it, that it's kind of like, wow, should have known that. I should have been doing this already.
Well, it is hard though, because that's not what we're told. You know what I mean? Like we're told that, I make kind of a joke in the book that we all have a simple checklist in our mind that when we look at food, we say, is it healthy? We say, is it low in fat? And if it's low in fat, then we think it's healthy. And certainly, the research doesn't say we should eat high-fat diets. It also doesn't say we should eat high-carbohydrate diets. It also doesn't say we should eat high-protein diets. We should eat a balanced diet. But that's not really what we're told. I mean, we're told to eat an incredibly low-fat and incredibly high-starch diet, and there is no research to support that that's even healthy, let alone good for fat loss. In fact, there's plenty of research showing that is, in many ways, the cause of the obesity and diabetes epidemics we're seeing over the past, 40 years.
Right. And when you're talking about how we were taught, I like how you use the USDA food pyramid that we all grew up with in school. That's what we were taught. The starches are the biggest base there at the bottom, and everything else, smaller percentage up above it. And
which again is the thing that always struck me about the food guide pyramid was, if you look, and obviously they have, moved towards a plate, and the plate is better than the pyramid. It's still not perfect, but it is better. But with the pyramid, which was, gospel for, 20-some years, it said that eating starch was more important than eating vegetables. Now, I have yet to meet any researcher anywhere who thinks that, if you have to choose between eating a slice of bread and eating spinach, that the slice of bread is more nutritious for you. But that is what the food guide pyramid suggested. And I don't know why. Actually, I do. But
yeah. Well, I was actually going to ask you, why do you think that is? Why is it that for all these years, the USDA and other organizations have told us to eat starches as our, as our biggest portion. And now, like you said, they are kind of altering it a little bit with the My Plate thing, but still, I mean, it's not much. I mean, vegetables are just a smidge bigger than the starches, but at least it's moving in the right direction. But why is it that for so many years that they've let us believe that that's the way we should have been eating?
Well, the food guide pyramid and even My Plate are not put out by the United States Council for Fat Loss, Health, and Fitness. They're put out by the United States Department of Agriculture, and the backbone of our agriculture business in this country is starch, right? It's corn, wheat, and rice, primarily corn and wheat. And basically, if you want to sell more corn and wheat, a great way to do that is to recommend that everyone eats more corn and wheat. And a great way to do that is to put it at the base of the pyramid. And I don't want to be the conspiracy theory guy, but I mean, science has proven that eating a diet of predominantly corn and wheat will kill you. I mean, it will eventually kill you more than likely. And I mean, that's what they do to cows. Like when a cow is being raised to be, turned into hamburgers someday, the cow will be fed grass while it's growing. And then for a short period of time at the end of its life, they'll take it and they'll feed it corn and cornmeal to fatten it up. And if the cow continues to eat that way, the cow will die. But it's also a great way to fatten the cow. It's also a great way to fatten people, and it's also a cheap way to fatten people, and it's also a very profitable way to fatten people. And then fat people are also very profitable because then they have to buy cholesterol-lowering medication, and they have to buy diabetes medication. So there's actually a lot of money to be made off of sick and heavy people, and not a lot of money to be made off of healthy and slim people. So that's also something to think about, and the book explores a little bit.
Yeah, it's a huge industry, the fitness industry, the food industry, pharmaceutical industry. I mean, we're talking billions of dollars here. So it is, again, like you said, not to be the conspiracy theorist, but when we do read messages out there that are marketed, and a lot of them primarily from these industries, you do have to wonder, there has to be some ulterior motive to the way they present certain facts. So they may be putting out facts, but maybe not the full 100% truth.
Absolutely. And a lot of it may have been birthed from good intentions. After
Right.
World War II, there was a concerted effort in this country to increase the production of food so that we could feed our booming population. And the easiest, most economical way to do that was to produce more starch. And so the intention was good. They were like, let's increase the production of starch. Let's subsidize the production of starch. But we don't have that problem anymore. So we kind of don't need that solution anymore. Why don't we subsidize the production of vegetables? And why don't we subsidize the production of lean meats and seafood? We don't need more starch anymore. We did. We don't anymore. So,
Right. We're good. We're good on starch.
We got it. We got enough. Thank you.
And now the other concept that you bring up and that is extremely prevalent is the whole calories in, calories out whole concept. And we see that everywhere. And I really love how you kind of did the math and the numbers on it, and it just really doesn't make sense. But not a lot of people really think about it that way until you really put the numbers out there and say, well, if you really did, if a calorie in really meant you'd gain weight, and evening that out with expenditure means you lose weight, then it'd be a lot easier to gain or lose weight than it actually is.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit more about the concept of calories in, calories out, and why it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Well, you're right that it doesn't. It's funny because on one level, it makes total sense, right? It's like a balance, and if you just balance this, the unfortunate thing is that our body isn't a balance, right? Balance is a physical object which does one thing. Our body is a biological organism, not to sound too geeky, which behaves much differently. And there's sort of two levels I like to talk about calories in, calories out. One is from common sense. One is a little bit more technical. So I'll start with the common sense one. See how much time we have. The common sense one is, if if anyone has any doubts that calories in, calories out is not true, they can just do some simple math like you were alluding to. You know, if you eat one extra saltine cracker, actually this is a better example, flaxseed oil. Most everyone has heard about omega-3 fatty acids being really healty for them. It's sort of a new trend, and it should be because they are fantastically healthy for you, according to the research. If you were to eat, a tablespoon of flax seeds per day, per your doctor's recommendation, that would increase your caloric intake by about 100 calories per day. Okay. If you did that, following your doctor's orders for 8 years, according to calories in, calories out, you should gain 100 pounds.
Oh, my goodness.
Because you will have increased your caloric intake enough where, if you multiply 100 calories a day times 365 days in a year, it's 365,000 calories or something like that, multiply that by 8 years, divide it by 3,500 calories and a pound of fat, and you get 100 pounds of fat. No one will ever gain 100 pounds by eating flax seeds, ever. It doesn't work that way. And the book goes into detail on why it doesn't work that way and how, just like, your body automatically regulates your blood pressure and it automatically regulates your heartbeat, certainly you can speed your heartbeat up temporarily and you can raise your blood pressure temporarily. You can even hold your breath temporarily. But fundamentally, our body is an automatically regulating system. And something as critical as keeping us nourished, and the amount of food we eat and the amount of energy we burn off is similarly automatically regulated, because if it wasn't, it would be awfully hard to keep people alive. Like if we had to balance our calories in and out manually, you'd have a lot more very skinny people and a lot more very obese people, because, these minor miscalculations could lead to hundreds of pounds of weight gain or loss.
Right. That would be a whole lot of work for us to keep ourselves in balance. But that's a job that our bodies can do. And like you said in the book, talking about the calories in, calories out, you have some very specific research studies that have really proven that concept wrong. But, yet again, we see that basically taught everywhere. And how many times do we hear, if you just cut out the Coke that you drink, you'll lose this much weight within a year if you just stop drinking Coke, for people that are Coke drinkers. And yeah, it doesn't really work that way, does it?
Absolutely. Well, and it's funny, too, because with a lot of this stuff, it is unfortunate because, stopping drinking Coke is fantastic, and you should. But as you correctly mentioned, it's not because, there's 100 calories or whatever there is in a can of Coke, and if you multiply that by 7 days in a week, that's 700 calories, so you should lose precisely this. No, that there has never, ever been a scientific study ever that shows that, if you eat X number of calories less, you will lose precisely this amount of weight. Every single scientific study I have ever seen proves that to be untrue, which is, if you eat 3,000 less calories, you will not necessarily lose 3,000 calories worth of weight. It absolutely does not work that way. And it's really not, the way it does work isn't particularly complicated. Calories in, calories out is simple. But we're not stupid, and it's not like the actual science is that complicated. The actual science is simply really don't worry about calories in, calories out. Worry about the quality of food you're eating, and your body will take care of the rest. And that's actually even simpler.
That's easier for me. I hate counting calories. I don't want to count calories. I can't keep track. It's too much work for me to analyze every little thing that I'm eating and keep a journal or, try to figure out how many calories I need and how much I'm burning off. That's a lot of work. But what you're proposing is much, much simpler and is actually what works versus all this time that we're spinning our wheels doing the things that really haven't gotten us anywhere or maybe have gotten us somewhere temporarily only to find that we've gained that weight back plus some.
Absolutely. Well, and that's the key thing is, eating less of the diet that, has made an individual, let's say 20 pounds overweight, eating less of that same diet will temporarily cause them to lose weight. They will be burning predominantly muscle, as the research indicates and the book talks about more, but it will cause them to lose weight. But the problem with that approach is it's not correcting the problem. The problem isn't the quantity of calories they're eating. The problem is the quality of those calories. And if it's sort of like saying, I'm going to touch a stove lighter to avoid burning my hand. it's not how hard you're touching the stove that's causing your hand to get burnt. It's that you're touching the stove at all. And that's
Right.
the sort of paradigm shift we need to make in our approach to fat loss and even just health, which is it's not about eating, less of the typical diet we've been told to eat. It's about eating more of a smarter diet. And that's sort of the eat more smarter angle of the book. It's really about that quality change, and then quantity will just kind of take care of itself.
Right, and like, again, as you said, once we steer away from all the bad food and the bad calories, our system will kind of normalize, right, and it'll trigger the correct responses. So we won't always feel hungry like we do when we're eating foods that aren't high in nutrient content. Once we start eating the better quality foods, and like you said, doing things smarter, our body starts to work normally again, and we get the proper responses that say, and we're full, it's time to burn fat, it's time to build muscle, and all those things will start kind of kicking back into gear. And then we can lower what you call the set point. Now tell us a little bit more about that. We haven't really touched on that much, but you talk about what our normal range is and how through this diet that we've been on, this poor quality caloric intake, that we've been increasing our normal range for our bodies and increasing the weight gain, with it. So can you tell us a little bit about what that is, what it means, and how we can affect that?
Absolutely. So the set point is, it's basically the alternate explanation for how fat we get or how slim we get. Today's explanation is calories in, calories out. That's it. Like, if you're overweight, it's because you're eating too much, exercising too little, or a combination of the two. And if you're slim, it's because you're eating a sufficient amount and you are exercising correctly. Whereas, of course, we all know that's not true because we all know people who eat whatever they want and don't exercise and stay slim. And the reason those people do stay slim, and what the research actually proves, is that, just like our body automatically regulates our breathing and our blood pressure and our heart rate, it also regulates our weight, and it regulates it around a set point. And a set point is something we've all experienced, right? Like, we'll get the flu and we'll lose 15 pounds. And then we won't eat any more or exercise any differently than we ever have in the past, but somehow we gain those 15 pounds back. Mm-hmm. And maybe even some more. And it's, or another example people often experience is they do gain weight. Let's say they gain 10 pounds. Well, they don't gain 100 pounds or they don't gain 200 pounds. Like, even people who are heavy don't continue to gain weight forever. And there's a reason that happens. It's also a reason we don't lose weight until we disappear. And that is our body has a complex system that basically is, our brain interacting with our hormones, interacting with our gastrointestinal tract, which basically says how much energy do we currently have on hand and how much energy do we need. And it sort of balances us out around a point, which is usually a range of about 10 pounds, which does go up as we age, but we can mitigate that. And basically that set point will automatically keep us at about, within a 10-pound range unless we clog up that system. So that's sort of an analogy I use in the book, is there's this clog in this fat metabolism system, and we've got a set point, but when we eat the wrong quality of food, we clog up that system, and our body gets confused, and it thinks we need more energy than we actually do. And that's when it starts telling us to overeat, and that's when it starts storing all those excess calories as body fat. And that's when our set point rises, and that's when we, weigh 20 extra pounds and can't seem to shake those off because our body now thinks we should weigh those 20 extra pounds. And that's been borne out in, all sorts of, really interesting studies, which I cover in the book.
Yes, the studies are just amazing. And it really ties into, what I hear a lot out there, is because a lot of people will say, gosh, my normal weight used to be 120. Now it seems like I can't get out of the 160s. It changed for them, and they're kind of stuck there no matter what they seem to do, no matter how many diets they get on. They get stuck at a point, where they're overweight. And, again, using what we now know is incorrect, calories in, calories out, they're not getting the kind of results they want to get. So your book really explains very well just kind of why that happens and what we can do to combat that and bring that set point back down to where it should be and to start burning off that fat normally. And what I love about the way you put everything in this book, which is a little plug for your book, but what I love about it is
Thank you.
but it's very easy to understand. And I love that you have the diagram or the flow charts telling us kind of step by step what is the process that our body is going through when things are working correctly and when things are not working correctly. And I just love that because I'm a visual person. I like to see. I'm like, okay, so I'm point A leads to point B leads to point C, and that's why I now weigh this much. And I love to see that because it really makes it a lot easier to understand. Like you said, it's really not that complicated. It sounds like it would be because of all the science that we're talking about right now and research, and everyone automatically, thinks science research, oh my gosh, it's complicated. But it's really not. And I was surprised at how you made it very easy to read and to understand and also entertaining. So I'm just so happy that I was introduced to your book and that you have now brought this information here to us lay people who don't read all of those medical journals and can pour over research. Tell us a little bit now about where people can find this book and start reading this information and start changing their lifestyle to get the results that they want.
Yeah, well, the book is currently available for pre-order, on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all those kinds of fun online retailers, and it is going to be, its street date or its official release date is January 2nd, so 1/2/12, and there's a bunch more information and free samples and all kinds of good stuff on the book's website, which is just thesmarterscienceofslim.com, and if you're at all interested in me, I also have a website, which is JonathanBailor.com. That's infinitely less interesting than the book, but no, just kidding.
No, I found it very interesting. Because actually you began in a totally different industry, correct?
Yes, yeah.
You weren't always in fitness.
That's correct. Yeah, my background is actually a bit more in technology, working as a program manager for Microsoft. But again, my job there, I mean, if I have my education is actually in economics, so I'm all over the place. My job was is to translate extremely technical information from, some of the smartest developers in the world who work at Microsoft and sort of communicate that to other people in the company. And that, I don't know if I have one skill, I guess that's what the skill is, because I just enjoy that. Like I like taking technical things and making them less technical and applicable, and that's what I did at Microsoft, and that's what I'm trying to do now, with the Smarter Science of Slim.
Yes, and I love how that background really plays into what you did here, because you're right. That's why now we understand why you did like to read all these medical.
That's true.
It all makes sense now. But I love this book. I really hope that everybody goes out there and gets a copy of this. January release date's perfect for everyone who's making those New Year's resolutions, wanting to start the year off the right way. This is just perfect. And I really think every household should have a copy of this, because I think this is really an excellent resource for everybody. And I really thank you so much for spending this time to let us know more about your book, about the research behind it, and a little bit about you. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. And if any of your listeners and readers have any questions, they can, find the Smarter Science of Slim on Facebook, post them up on the wall, and we'll get answers to them just as quickly as we can.
Wonderful. And for all the readers out there, we will post all the links. So if you didn't catch that in the recording, we'll have all the links available for you so that you can visit Jonathan Bailor's site and the Smarter Science of Slim. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed this interview with Jonathan Bailor. The transcripts will be available. If you go to RadiantEmagazine.com, they will be available next month, as well as a review of the book in the January-February issue of Radiant E Magazine.